What is up YouTube, it's your boy Alex here from Team Generations, and today we are back again with another video. Today we're going to be looking at a budget deck for set 10, kind of building off of another budget deck product that recently came out, which I'll go into a little bit later. We are going to be looking at a list for Magnolia. So coming out of set 10, we actually got a couple cards in here for Magnolia that can either support the grade 4 or the grade 3 kind of build. In my opinion, the grade 3 build is a little bit more budget, a little bit more accessible, and on top of that, I did just receive this budget deck from 50 Cards. I ordered it from his big sale, so if you are like me, kind of had that deck, you want to upgrade it maybe a little bit or take it just in a slightly different direction, I'm going to kind of walk through some of my reasoning first and my upgrades throughout the deck and just kind of show you the direction that I wanted to take it for set 10 in general. So without further ado, let's hop right in. So really quickly, I feel like I have to break down the strategy of this deck kind of before I go into some of the more specifics of it in general, because once you see that, you'll kind of understand why I chose a couple cards that I did. So I know right off the bat, if you've been playing for a little bit, you know, why are you using this ride line compared to some of the other ones out there, like the Zorga ride line, things of that nature. First and foremost, let's talk about the best decks right now. Ava and Chronojet, they are just simply, like I said, the best decks in the meta. So right now in my grade 4 build, which is a little bit slower in general, yeah, I'm running the Zorga ride line. There is no doubt about that. I have a lot of orders in there. You know, your game plan is to kind of pace out and like win through the long game, which is really hard to go into basically do that against like Chronojet or Eva, even for that matter. It really is like a ticking time bomb. So I feel like right now, ironically enough, the grade 3 build is maybe a little bit more competitive just because of the rush aspect. And because of that rush aspect, we are actually going to run the base ride line over here. This is the one that came with the budget deck, by the way, too. If it's still available on 50 Cards, I'm not sure if he's going to restock it or whatnot. But in general, I feel like for this build, we want to be a little bit faster. This helps us get there. We're running a lot less orders. I feel like grade 4 decks are a little bit too slow, with the exception of like 1 or 2 things right now in the meta. So with that being in mind, I'm running this over here, and like I said, you kind of have to just either rush, like Chronojet for example, you have to be able to grade 2 game them, you have to be able to just rush them down, make sure that like you put on as much pressure, because at most you're getting assuming a normal kind of game, no trigger anomalies or whatever, you're getting like 2 persona rides off of, or 1 persona ride at very most. So you have to kind of make the most of your time in that matchup, and I feel like this build kind of does that. And again, with Ava 2, it's the same kind of thing. Some people like to kind of pace back and like not let Ava get a bunch of counterblasts off the rip, but at this point in the game, like, it doesn't matter. They countercharge, they do everything you want. You have to just kind of rush them down. I feel like, in my opinion, if you go first with this deck, you have a very good shot in general. So without further ado, let's hop into the deck profile now that I kind of explained the the idea behind the deck in general, and let's get started. Alright, so obviously you kind of saw them already, but I'm just going to go over it. This is going to be Sylvan Hornbeast. You can use any starter for this, doesn't really matter. I'm just keeping it in the theme. Over here, Sylvan Hornbeast Charis. So Charis basically gets to, when ridden upon by the next card, you get to reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a grade 2 or less card, call it to rear, and if it isn't, you put it into your soul. Getting soul is not too bad in this at all. Also in the back row rearguard circle during the battle, this unit attack gets an extra 5k, becomes a 13k beater with an additional 5k that Magnolia could give it. There's ways to kind of like revive it, so it is worth at least mentioning that second skill. Over here in the grade 2 now, we are going up to the Sylvan Hornbeast Lattice. Lattice, essentially, when ridden upon, you get to Soul Blast 1, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a unit card, call it to rear. If it isn't, put it into your hand. And then the back row rearguard circle, when this unit attacks the Vanguard, Soul Blast 1, 10k. Not really too effective. You don't want to really use that second skill too much because we have other beaters, but of course we are running the grade 3 Magnolia, and we're not running any of the grade 4s in here. If you want to tech in like 1, sure, go for it. But again, this is kind of like a budget build, so I didn't want to really include that, and I feel like this is actually a good pace of play in general for the front row. I mean, for the money in general. So over here, at the end of battle, it attack, counterblast 1, choose one of your rear guards, and until the end of turn, it can attack from the back row, and it gets 5k. If you Persona Road this turn, this guy gets, you get to choose 3 rear guards instead of just 1. So again, Persona riding kind of makes that grade 4 Magnolia skill almost live. There are other things in this deck that kind of help us attack a little bit sooner, so let's hop into that, and yeah, let's get started with the main deck. Alright, before we begin with this main deck, I just wanted to quickly mention that if you are interested in purchasing any of the cards that you see here today, we do have a TCG player affiliate link down in the description below. Absolutely no cost to you. You can help support the channel. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much in advance. I'll never ask you for money or subscriptions or anything like that, so that definitely helps me a whole lot. Thank you in advance. Also, if you are enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like on the video, possibly consider subscribing to the channel. We also now have a Discord. I will link that down in the description below. That is absolutely free. Hop in there. You can talk one-on-one with me, whatever you want, group setting, whatever it is. So definitely looking to get that kind of rolling. So go join that. Go check us out. And then, cool, let's hop into the deck profile, the main deck profile itself now. We're going to start off with our grade 3s. We are looking at 3 more of the Sylvan Hornbeast King Magnolia. So obviously you want to Persona Ride in this deck. Drawing is good. Really, the draw power is the big deal in this deck. Like, you want to be drawing throughout the game, just surviving as long as you can. I feel like the grade 3 is still able to do that, and we have ways to kind of search this out now, which is really nice. nice. Being able to give the Persona Ride to the front row, you know, that extra 10k is huge. That draw, like I said. And obviously its whole skill kind of goes live, so very, very much needed in this deck. And then for another grade 3, I'm actually running 3 of these guys, and I thought I wouldn't like him at first, but the more I play with them, the more I kind of see the value in general. Sylvan Hornbeast, Winnispoon, so kind of like Winnie the Pooh, I guess, over here. Continues in deck or hand if you have a grade 2 or greater Vanguard with Sylvan Hornbeast in its card name, different than this card name. This guy gets grade -1, so you can actually call this down on grade 2. And actually kind of just start rushing them down. I know 13k isn't the biggest in the world, but you know, it does make some difference once you get to the second skill over here on your grade 3 turn, but continues on rearguard circle. If your Vanguard Magnolia in its card name was placed this turn, this guy gets 10k. So, you know, you can have this down on your grade 2 turn and then all of a sudden ride into your Magnolia, and not only does it get 10k, on a Persona Ride it gets another 10k, so it's a 33k base just in the front row, and that's the big thing here. Like, we don't have too many units we want in the front row necessarily, so this guy definitely fills the spot. You don't feel bad calling him down either because he doesn't really have shield, and again, we're trying to rush things down. And so long as you can get this down on grade 2, you know, you see that grade 3, I mean, it's live from your very first grade 3 turn onwards, hopefully, and just becomes like a really free, big beat stick, so I personally like it, and yeah. Really actually effective in general. Lastly, over here for the grade 3s, I'm actually still running one of these. This is a Rotting Usurp Dragon. I can't speak today. In drop, when your grade 3 greater Vanguard is placed, you can call this card to rearguard circle. Again, you want to kind of fill your front row with stuff, and this guy kind of becomes that. If you have a Maple, you know, you can toss that in instead. I think that is a decent choice as well, but this is a little bit more budget, so I'm going to go with the grade 3 option instead. This is great discard fodder throughout the game. You know, just ride into your Magnolia. The idea is you kind of see this over and over, and if you're against decks that kind of retire a whole lot, this actually could be very, very good choice in general. Next up, kind of getting into the grade 2s, let's clear the grade 3s over here. I'm going to put the SP ones on the bottom so I can at least read this guy over here. This is going to be Sylvan Hornbeast Daminaru, I think that's how to say, something like that. But when this unit is placed on rearguard circle for your Vanguard, it is Sylvan Hornbeast King Magnolia, Soul Blast 1. Choose one of your rearguards, and until the end of turn, it can attack from the back row and gets 5k. Also, auto on rearguard circle, when this unit is chosen by your Vanguard's effect, this guy gets 5k until the end of turn, so in the 50 cards deck, I think there was 2 of these included, and I get it, it's a triple rare. I don't know if he would have wanted to include more for budget reasons, but I think the way that I'm taking this deck, the kind of rush style in general, you need to kind of just have like a full field attack almost on your first grade 3 turn. You know, triggers do help shut this down, that there's absolutely no doubt about that, but at the same time too, if they don't hit triggers, you know, you are applying pressure, and it's early in the game, you know, hopefully they won't have their deck thinned an absolutely insane amount, so you could have some luck with this overall, getting some free power, enabling other attacks too. And again, if you're not at the point where like you can't re-ride and like you just don't have another Magnolia in hand for whatever reason, pop this guy down, definitely helps. Soul Blast is a little bit heavy, but we'd have ways to put that back in the deck, so not the worst in the world at all. Next up over here, I think I would run 4, but right now I'm just trying 3, and I think it's a good ratio just because of the second skill. But this is going to be the new card coming out of set 10, Sylvan Hornbeast Golidote, something like that. So drop when your Vanguard with Magnolia and its card name is placed during your ride phase. If your Soul does not have one of these guys in there, you put this card into Soul, choose one of your Vanguards, gets 5k until the end of turn, so making it a little bit harder, a little bit better, just to, you know, just have a more successful kind of attack in general. So especially if you Persona Road, let's say, you know, you become a 28k, so it's more than just like a 15k for like 1 to pass, which is nice because ideally you don't really boost your Vanguard, so any kind of power you give is very good. Auto and back row rearguard circled second skill, when this unit attacks, it gets 10k until the end of turn. At the end of the battle, if it's in the center column, you retire this unit, draw a card. This is our budget, basically, inlet pulse. We definitely want to be seeing these all the time. There's ways to, again, kind of get this back, and that's why I've cut it down to 3. And you can only use like the into Soul thing like once per turn kind of, but I think I would kind of bump it to 4. I'm waiting on my 4th copy. I like it at 3. I don't know, I might keep it there, so just a heads up, kind of like an asterisk with that. But again, a beat stick for free pretty much, does everything you want, puts you into Soul, helps you with Soul costs, also helps you draw. I mean, it's just super good in general. Next up over here in Oldie But Goldie, we are going to go into Sylvan Hornbeast Gunesia. So Gunesia is an Oldie But Goldie, like I said. Back row rearguard circle, when this unit attacks, we counterblast 1, choose one of your other rearguards, and it gets this unit's power until the end of turn. So again, if you feel like you get shut off by a trigger, CB1, you basically give your power to something else. You know, you could stack power on this, let's say, put that all around. You know, we are running an over trigger in this deck, so you could pass that over trigger power around, which is really nice in general. So I personally do like it. I think at 1 of it's okay. You can bump that to 2 if you really want, but I'm just kind of trying a little bit of a Highlander spice in my grade 2 kind of lineup from here on out. But this over here too was included in that budget deck, Sylvan Hornbeast Gabreg. Auto and rearguard circle. When your other unit in the same column as this unit attacks, Soul Blast 1, this unit gets 10k until the end of turn. Choose all your opponent's rearguards, and for the battle that this unit attacked, your opponent cannot call cards with the same grade as the chosen units from their hands to the Guardian Circle. So this is actually pretty big because in Steam Maidens, not Steam Maidens, playing against Chronojet, they'll usually leave a grade 1 on board. So if you're trying to, attack them with a big thing, they can't PG most of the time, which is actually really nice. You also, they leave things on board. Same with, what's it called? Same with Eva over here. So this really does help you get around some of that extra guard that they might have had, and just, it's really annoying. 10k, give it power also. It's becomes at least a 25k kind of attacker. Put Genesius power on it. Basically stack this guy with power. I did cut this down because of the Soul Blast cost. You could choose to up it if you wanted to, and just be a little more cognizant. Maybe take some of these guys down. It's completely up to you. But again, I'm building for a little bit more speed. At this point of the game, MPix really isn't too expensive, so I'm at least including one. Ideally, might want a little bit more if this wasn't budget, but I still think at the cost, like, it's only a couple dollars now, so I think it's definitely at least worth it to have one. It helps you in certain matchups where, you could basically recycle this. If it's in the drop, you can get it back a certain way. I'll show you later, but it is very, very effective overall. It just gives itself a free +10 on top of the 5k that Magnolia would give. It basically becomes a 23k, which is nice. It's 15k guard for free, and in the end can attack in the back row. Kind of protects your other units in the same column of this if you have 3 or less, so definitely need at least one. Next up over here too, we're running one Clapping Dragon of Soul Revolution, basically 5 attacks or more. You go put this into your soul and countercharge 1. So even if things kind of don't go your way, you're fueling your soul. You're also countercharging. So, if you use Magnolia and it was a dud that turn, this kind of just refunds it in general. So I kind of like that. I think that it definitely is included at least at a 1 of in this deck. Again, my ratios aren't like 100%. I feel like this is more of a template. Base yourself, play it a little bit and see what you kind of like. But overall, this is kind of where I'm at right now, at least with the deck. So, and I think this is pretty good for budget. Like, I've played against the big hitters with this deck, and I feel like, so I definitely have a shot. Like, there's not a definite, yes, this is going to kill that deck 100%, but I definitely don't think this is like a not competitive deck. Over here, we are going to look at Sylvan Hornbeast Serral over here. So for the grade 1s, hopping into them, this is actually a really great like lifesaver, honestly. So auto when this card is placed on rearguard from deck or hand, if you have a Vanguard with Sylvan Hornbeast in its card name, Soul Blast 1, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 card with Magnolia, add it to your hand, and yeah, basically you can call this off the ride line, you can call this from your hand manually. This is kind of your ride fixer. Again, Soul Blast cost is a little bit heavy, but we have things to kind of fuel the soul. Just make sure that you're monitoring that throughout the game, and honestly, you'll be okay. I don't really find I have too much of an issue in general, but you have to get rolling with Magnolia. You have to see it. I think at 4 of, it's just absolutely necessary. Next up into the grade 1s. Again, this is a budget deck, so I'm just including these, but if you want to get the regular PGs, like, totally go for it. Get the upgraded ones. That is completely fine. That is ideal, obviously, but this is just a regular PG. If you have one of the Elementary Sanctitudes too, definitely swap one of these out. There's no point not to. So overall, it is what it is. You guys know. There's nothing else really for the grade 1s. Getting into the grade 0s, actually, before I go into the triggers, we actually have what is it over here? Order cards. So I'm actually still including, like, it came with the 50 cards trial deck. I'm including still 4 of the Wild Intelligence, just because it's solid, gets things out. You don't really run through Counterblast too much in this deck, and I feel like Soul is a little bit too much to use some of the Spiritual Body Condensation, things like that. So I think that this is a solid choice overall. Basically, you play this with the Counterblast 1, discard 3 cards on the top of your deck, choose up to 1 card with the same grade as your Vanguard or lower from your drop, call it to rearguard circle, and then your Vanguard is Sylvan Hornbeast Magnolia, call 2 instead of 1. So again, this is the grade 3 build, so you're always going to be on this one. This isn't the Magnolia Elder, so this is always live for the 2, which is like absolutely huge. I think at a certain point you don't want to start milling, just because you will kind of run out of deck if the game goes long enough, but ideally this is a rush deck, so you shouldn't really be afraid to pop these down. Of course, it's just up to the pilot. Make sure you kind of monitor that as you go along, but 4 of these, super, super nice. You don't really run more orders in this deck because it is, like I said, that rush build, but we are obviously going to still run triggers over here, so let's cover that. We're going to go into one of the over trigger. This is the base one. You can run the other one if you want, if you have it. It's definitely not a bad idea, but I honestly think, like, you kind of win through your pressure of attacks in this deck. It's not like, there's no big crit pressure. There's no big, like, absolutely huge column, just 1 column smacking in. They're little pokes. So with that idea, kind of, again, this being budget plus that idea, I feel like the vanilla over trigger is just pretty solid because you get to give the 100 million to 2 units when you drive check it instead of 1. So it is what it is there. 4 of the base, just regular kill triggers. If you want, I think it's not a bad idea. The new ones are pretty cheap too, like the new effect trigger that came out is a rare instead of a hollow, thank God, but or whatever it was previously, but they're honestly not too much. They're 10k shields, get an additional, I think, 10k when when your opponent's Vanguard is a higher grade than you, and we kind of do struggle from behind, I'm not gonna lie, so those actually are a decent choice overall. I'm running 6 crit over here. Do definitely need still crit pressure, but we still want draw pressure to, I mean, just draw power in general. So with that in mind, I think this was the ratio from the trial deck, or the budget deck that I bought, but I agree with it. I always run more draws in my Magnolia build, to be honest. I think that fronts are decent, but in general, like, I think the draw power is just what's going to keep us alive, and like, we have to make it to our Persona ride turn to really close out the game, unless you get like super lucky, I guess, on your first kind of grade 3 ride. But overall, kind of helps us get there. If you could afford, if you want, go get the the extra 10k ones. It does make a huge difference in the deck, but just for budget purposes, I'm including still just 5 of the regular draws in here. Change it up as you see fit, 100%, but that's pretty much the deck profile. If you guys have any questions, totally let me know down in the comments below. Again, we have that Discord. I would really appreciate if you guys join it, check us out. If you have any questions, anything like that, you could always reach out to me over there too. We have a couple of mods from our team too, kind of in there to just good to kind of meet us in general. So thank you again. If you have any questions, let me know. It's Alex from Team Generations signing out.